today we have a very special panel with all the superstars globally and locally. So the topic today is quite simple. It's the state of Web3. I'm sure a lot of developers here wants to know more about it and the current status. So we have some of the best experts here to give you their insights today. Let's begin with the introduction. Austin?
Hey, I'm Austin Federa. I work for the Solana Foundation, where I work on strategy.
Hi, my name is Lily Liu. I'm the president of the Solana Foundation.
Hi, my name is Lloyd, founder of Kyber. I spent a lot of time working with Kyber and our own spin-off multi-chain wallet called Crystal.
Hi everyone, my name is Thanh. I'm the CEO and founder of Coin98. We've been being supporting Solana back in 2020, and still double down on Solana until now. So excited to join the panel today with all this all-star team.
Hello everyone, my name is Vuong. I am a founder of Tomochain Labs and CEO of Solscan, the most popular explorer on Solana.
Woo. All right, thank you very much. Let's begin. So I'm going to divide the session into globally and locally. So let's start with a temperature check and see, give us your perspective in terms of globally of what is the state of Web3, and then we'll follow with the local guys after.
Sure. So blockchain, it's no secret that it's a pretty cyclical industry. There are ups, there are downs. I would say we're probably in the middle of a bear market right now. And it's also been pretty exciting over the last, I would say, week or so, right, with a lot of newly injected volatility in the ecosystem. I think that in the broader industry, not just specifically in Solana, but I think we're going to get through it. I think that, this is, for me, my third bear market. So I, am used to these sort of high peaks and low troughs. I think that there's still an incredible amount of innovation that is happening in different corners of the industry. I think that this is now one of those creation periods where people start to creatively explore new application verticals and also how to integrate those application verticals. I think that some of the broader trends happening throughout the industry is various kind of broadly termed modularity technologies. I think there's different approaches to that, elsewhere in the industry. So there's a lot of innovation and probably, a lot of proliferation of various roll-ups and roll-up technologies, both optimistic and zero-knowledge-based roll-ups. See a lot of that happening in other networks. Effectively, there are different ways of addressing the trade-off space of performance and scalability and the ability to create sort of more application-specific infrastructure. As always, Solana's had a somewhat different approach to that, different ways of technically architecting that and addressing that within, the context of the way that Solana has built a blockchain. But I think that's a very active area of innovation and a very active area of investment right now globally. I think that, given what's happened over the last week in particular, it's become abundantly clear, I think it's already become abundantly clear slowly over the last decade, that places like California do not have a monopoly on innovation. And that's been true in the traditional startup space increasingly, and that's always been true in the blockchain space. And so I think that, increasingly builders, investors, innovators are globally agnostic. Building remote teams, global teams, that's very intuitive to us here in crypto. And I think that's only going to become more so the case. And I think we'll also sort of help educate our friends in the Web2 world on how to make that a reality as well. So some of my starting observations.
Yeah, this is, for me, second bear market. And I think the interesting thing that I've seen is that the bull market tends to be the time that you see an upswing in the Western companies, large publicly traded companies, companies built in places like the United States and Western Europe, investing in blockchain and sort of putting stuff out there. And in the bear markets, you see a lot of the use cases sort of developed and built out in more developing markets. And I think there's a reason for that, which is that the the compelling nature of blockchain as a place to make money attracts a lot of people when the market's up, and the utility component is deeply attractive in areas where they need the technology more. And so this is areas where you have more difficult financial systems, sometimes more corrupt, sometimes just more limited financial systems. You know, Ukraine is a really great example of this. I had a lot of friends who were in Ukraine and coworkers and colleagues who were able to pick up and leave because they had their assets in blockchain currency and, you know, digital assets. And that sort of, you see this, like we were in Turkey recently for a hacker house there, and you see that's a place that has an over 80% inflation rate. And for them, the volatility of something like Bitcoin is nothing compared to the volatility of a local currency. And so I think it's really interesting to see a lot of the new ideas get piloted in places like Vietnam, and this is where a lot of the actual innovation happens. And then when the bull market comes, you know, the builders who have been building, they reap the rewards of that, of course. But also, you see sort of the Western markets stepping back in and, you know, re-engaging and getting re-excited about the technology. And that's a great opportunity for founders who have sort of been building on stuff for maybe 2 or 3 years to really have a seat at the table in the way that Web 2 hasn't done that, right? Like I think what Lily was saying, there's no reason that somewhere like California has a monopoly on these sorts of things, but that is the way that companies like Facebook and Meta and, you know, even Twitter and these organizations have been built up. For whatever reason, a lot of the leadership is still centralized in places like the United States, and that's not true at all in Web 3. And so that's really great to see.
Wow. Okay. I guess that's globally. Let's do the local.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's like local per se, but like I think in every bear market, people will start, you know, asking the right fundamental questions, right? Like for example, like, you know, where the yield from, right? Where are the users? So that's why I think we've been like seeing a lot of like effort in like say bringing the real world asset into crypto, right? Into Web3. We have seen a lot of like people trying to bridge the real world use into Web3, right? We have been seeing a lot of effort in say making it like very easy for the mainstream users to say just even like set up their crypto account, right? Say their crypto wallet either on Solana or like on Ethereum or any other EVM chain. So I think these are the right sort of like fundamental changes, right? Because like I think in the bull market, everyone was happy, everyone was like making a lot of money. So like people just like forget about like how hard it is for mainstream people to still like, be onboarded, right? And also like how early we are in terms and how unsustainable we are in terms of like yield and incentive to incentivize users.
Agree.
Yeah, so I think like this is my second bear market, and it's totally different than the first one that we already have back in 2018. So I still remember like back in 2018 in Vietnam, and also in the you know from global market as well. When you go to Twitter and then every Telegram and Discord group, there's no like conversation and like there's no use case for crypto back in the day, and then there's no you know any activities of like you know developers can gathering and like constantly building. You know, it's totally different than this bear market. This bear market, you still have like Solana Hacker House. You still have like you know hackathons that have hundreds of people who join in that. And another thing is like you know from our experience. So for Coin98, we start building in the bear market back in 2018, and then you know we have like 2-3 years building in a bear, have a very good preparation, and when the bull market is back, that's your turn to really conquer the world, and then you know take your opportunity and to shine. And then I think I've seen like a lot of people here. You know, putting down you know a lot of hours and you know to work and then building your own projects. I think like this is the perfect time for all of you to like you know start growing your seed for the next bull market. So I think as long as you're like sticking around, not giving up, and then you know constantly building, you know when the bull markets come back, you know you're going to make sure that you are in a very good position to capture that opportunities.
Okay.
In the bear markets, we kind of like asking the question, what the problems Web3 is solving, right? For me, I think the Web3 is solving the problem of Web2, which is the centralization of power over the user. And I think the centralization of power, the big tech is having right now, having a lot of users, and having a lot of say over the rules and over what we are doing on the internet. And I think the core strength of Web3 would be making it decentralized and making it in a way that users have a say in the evolution of the internet in the future. I think that is actually worth building upon. But it's also very challenging, right? Like, why normal user, regular user, choose to use Web3 products over a lot of established products that Facebook, Google, and other big tech company is already producing? I think that's the question. So we really need to think hard as a community and work cooperatively to work solving, to make worldwide products that's actually better than the alternative, the current product the internet is having right now.
Okay, very interesting. There's a lot of developer and audience, so don't be afraid of the bear market. It happens. It will, up and down. That's a normal cycle. Which brings to the next question is maybe to motivate them more. What do you see trending globally right now, and what is being built the most that you think will be for the next 2-3 years?
Sure. I really love this question. One of the areas that I'm the most excited about is payments-related DeFi. I think that is something that people have been thinking about, writing about, dreaming about in crypto since the very early days of Bitcoin, but it's just not been feasible because up until you had Solana, you would click a button, send a transaction, then you'd go sit there and refresh your block explorer. And that is just not an experience that scales at all, right? That's not a user experience. And I think that only in recent years have some of the pieces started to come together where you can actually have, let's just call it payments on chain in ways that, can support like a workable user experience, right? We have enough liquidity in stable coins. And then on top of that, you have a chain with performance and also a developer community that can innovate on top of that. So I'm really excited about, kind of DeFi 2.0, if you will, where I think that the core transaction is not a trade, which is what supported AMMs and clubs and all of the trading, on-chain trading innovation we saw over the last couple of years, which is great. We should continue to do that. But I think DeFi built on payments as the core transaction is really exciting because that's where we can start to take things like business or even consumer-oriented credit products in a sort of multi-currency world and rethink how to actually implement and build those things even better on chain. 24/7 settlement, right? Composable financial products. And those are the types of use cases that I think also have a scalable audience. So that's one area that I'm really excited about.
Maybe we have two DeFi 2.0 guys here. So maybe you guys can follow up and then we're back to Austin.
I can talk a little bit about what has been happening in, say, the Ethereum ecosystem, right? Because we are quite involved there. So I could say, I think there are a couple of things that a lot of people in the Ethereum ecosystem are focusing on. One is how to use like all the zero knowledge, cryptography to say to make it efficient for every transaction on blockchain, right? Either layer 2 or layer 1. So this is what a lot of people have been building with like all the ZK rollup chain. And the second part is like how to use zero knowledge cryptography for privacy purposes. I think this is what a lot of people have challenges with, mainly because of the regulatory push, right? Like I think several governments have been like against like all the on-chain privacy part. But I mean we have been like seeing a lot of like innovation there, and several like, people are trying to launch it. I think in terms of DeFi is getting a lot more competitive, and we haven't seen much like crazy innovation in the last, say, a year and a half, right? Like since the beginning of 2021. I think a lot of the innovation has been on, say, how to optimize the capital efficiency, for example, right? How do you launch a new AMM that cater for some specific kind of asset? How do you, say, allow the professional market makers to do market making on chain efficiently, right? I think with Solana, since it's a lot more efficient to operate on chain, it's doable, right? But like when it comes to say EVM chain, it's a bit more technical and need like a new solution for that. Yeah, apart from that, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of effort in say bringing the real world asset to blockchain, bringing the real world use like from other capital financial products right into the blockchain, so that there's going to be sustainable yield for the users for other DeFi protocols. We are seeing a lot of like traction from that, and hopefully like in a year or two that will take off.
Yeah, I think my opinion a little bit biased because we're building a wallet, but like I think for me there's like two challenges that I think like very big challenges that everyone is trying to solve right now. The first one is like building a very high scalable infrastructure that can support all this DeFi and NFTs and Web3 protocols. We already seen in the last like couple of days there's a crisis of USDC and bank run and everything. And then I think like for all the blockchains and also protocol, it should be designed to like operate as usual during this times of crisis. And then we already see that during this crisis there's still a lot of protocols that cannot like protocols cannot providing a accurate index price or it's not like full like can provide a very stable services that other protocol can use. So I think this is one of the very big challenges for even for the wallet as well. Every time that when the crisis happen, for every application that have a very massive users, they have a very big demand on querying and using all this infrastructure. And then I think like all these types of things is not like available yet in the market. And there's like a lot of people working on this solution. So I believe that in the next like 1 or 2 years, when all this problem is already solved, we are gonna have a very high scalable system that we can serve like millions of users, as we say. And then the other thing is like the other challenge right now is that the user like Web2 onboarding users process that we can onboarding like normal users who never understand about blockchain and stuff to start like create a wallet and using cryptos and then trading NFTs. This I think like a lot of StepN is also another use case of this as well. I would see like StepN as a very good example for this. And I would expect to see there will be more and more people like learning from StepNs, and then maybe like having taking lessons from them, and then do it even better. And then from there we can have as soon as we have a very easy onboarding process to onboard like Web2 users to Web3, that will be the way that we can like onboard the next billion users to use Web3, and that would be the way that to go to the mass.
If I have to bet in one breakout sector, so it would be on gaming. But I think the gaming project, that success will not just be about entertainment. It has to be about kind of like creating a sense of community and also allowing the gamer and the community member to earn a livelihood. And I think we have one example from HC Infinity team also growing out from Vietnam, trying to do that. And I think that's probably the best shot for us to earn more and more users into Web3, like giving them the sense of community, the sense of the entertainment, but also have a way of earn some money. And we are at Solscan, we are working with data analytics, and we also helping project with the data. But I'm also looking at helping project to look into gaming and kind of like create a situation like that. There are some gaming projects that can break out.
Okay, so gaming, asset tokenization. What about you, Austin? You've been traveling a lot, so let's give them what's trending.
Yeah, I would say that one of the categories I think is most interesting, like everything everyone's talked about, it is sort of very important extensions of ideas that are sort of already either conceptually or technically proved out, right? We know that privacy systems work, they're just too slow. We know that payments run most of the regular economy. There's a huge blockchain application for them. For me, I think the idea of token incentivized physical infrastructure and decentralized physical infrastructure networks are really, really exciting. This is things like Helium, which runs a bunch of cell hotspots out of people's houses and low-raw networks, or things like HiveMapper, which is like a decentralized version of Google Street View. They offer very different experiences and data sets than centralized physical infrastructure can provide. And I think if we look at the way that sort of IoT has been overhyped in the last, call it, decade, a lot of those failures are because they require centralized deployments of the technology, where the users who are actually dealing with the thing, like who's going to put something up in their house for no economic return, and what company is going to go around to everyone in an apartment building and say, hey, why don't you put this little sensor outside on your window? But suddenly you add tokens to the equation, and it makes a ton of sense for you to take physical spaces and add something like a cell phone radio to it to provide local cell phone coverage to the people, that are walking by your apartment. This idea of decentralized physical infrastructure networks, I think there's finally blockchains fast enough, like Solana, to make use of something like that and to make that be a viable technology play. And we're starting to see things like Helium is already like a successful attempt at building this stuff out, and that's kind of just the beginning. But the analogy here is sort of like, from the outside, it seems like the traffic in Ho Chi Minh City should not work. It's crazy. And then you can just cross the road and everyone knows what to do. And like this sort of, the lack of a top-down planning model, which is like what all traffic in the US is built on, the decentralized traffic model works really well here. And I think it's kind of an analogy for where decentralized physical infrastructure can actually produce just as good, if not better, experiences than centrally controlled physical infrastructure.
It's control chaos. That's what we call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, I guess we don't have a lot of time left. I have one more question for the whole panel, starting with two parts on the foundation side and on the founder side, right? So everyone knows that, it's a bear cycle and there's FTX and other things. What are the challenge of getting more user growth for Solana that facing right now? And then as for the founder, what are you expecting for, let's say, big chains such as Solana, Ether, or others to be, supporting the community to grow more products and to drive innovation? What do you look into these foundation to provide?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is to say, oh, it's a build market, right? That's like the sort of the thing you hear from everyone is like, oh, this is the market to build in. And that is true. There's a real truth to that. But part of the difficulty now is the difficulty of onboarding a new user to blockchain. It's a little harder right now because the excitement around it is maybe gone. People may have heard some, oh, I have a friend who lost some money. There's all these pieces that make that a little bit harder. Right. I think the idea that there's going to be one breakout thing that just like massively brings 250 million people to any blockchain, we're probably not going to see that. We're going to see 10,000 projects that bring 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. And just like we're talking about, it's not one big centralized infrastructure play. It's a bunch of really compelling projects that all onboard core, hardcore users who really need whatever it is people are building on chain. And I think that's the path through the end of the bear market, personally.
Okay, Lily?
Yeah, I think that I do think that having a critical mass of builders in a certain industry vertical is also quite important. Because that's where sort of the hive mind can take hold, and that mutual creativity and innovation sort of boosts everyone, right? That kind of shared sort of energy and the collective mind share. So I think that I do think that it is important to have sort of focus in certain areas. To an extent, that's what drove a lot of the innovation within crypto in 2020 and 2021, that collective interest in DeFi, which was probably one of the first things that was a little bit of a product market fit entirely on chain. So I think that, whether that is, trading-based DeFi, payments-based DeFi, creator tools in a creator economy. Those are some of the areas that I personally am very interested in. From the perspective of the foundation, I've always thought that the foundation, what we're here to do is to enable people who want to be producers, developers, creators, builders, people that want to build. And so our role as foundation is to, provide broadly defined those resources to support folks, right? That can range anywhere from providing collective platform to gain visibility for the products you're building, provide support in building teams, right? But I've always thought of a blockchain less as being a company and more as being kind of like a special economic zone that we're all collectively trying to populate and build into something like a Shenzhen, which is probably one of the most successful special economic zones that has become a city. And how do we collectively do that? In essence, the foundation here our role is the way I see it, is to provide support for those builders that we want to have in the city, the Solana city. And so to the extent that we can do that, to the extent that we can do that better, and provide the infrastructure, make it an attractive place to build, those are the types of things that we want to be able to provide. Clearly we put on events like these, supported folks like Super Team to build local communities, and very open-minded as to more ways that we can do that in order to sort of support and help continue to develop the community.
Okay, Lai?
I mean, I think Lily already, I guess the foundation has been, doing a lot of things that we expect from the foundation to do, right? I guess end of the day, we need, more users to be in the space, right? Because we don't want to see, say, the whole space fighting for, 10,000 users or, 10,000 daily active transactions. So hopefully, through all these, off-chain activities like this, we can have more people building new use cases, bringing interesting experience for the users to join the space. Because I mean, collectively, that would benefit everyone who is already in the space, right? Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I do agree with Lei on this. I think in my opinion, in order to a specific blockchain platform to grow, there should be two types of community we need to own. The first one is developers community, and the second one is the users. I think Solana foundations do a very great job in building I think besides of Ethereum, Solana is one of the most active and loyal developers community that I've ever seen. But again, I think what we beside of that, I think what we're looking for in the next cycle will be we need more users to really use all the things that we are built. We cannot just build and ship and then build again and then nobody use. So I think in the last cycle we already spent a lot of time in building and then shipping new product. In the next cycle I think I would expect to, from builders to allocate more time in doing marketing and also community growing, to acquire more users to use all this type of product as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Firstly, I want to thank Lily and Austin for bringing Hacker House to Ho Chi Minh City, to Vietnam. It is really meaningful and gives it inspires the youngster and the developer to build things, to engage with the technologies. And I hope that we can make it annually, right? Giving more grant to the super team here so they can help with the groundwork here in Ho Chi Minh City and in Hanoi, and also in Hanoi, in Vietnam in general. I think these are the things we hope that we can get help from the foundation. But we also I think it will take time for the community to form, right? And for the hard work to turn into the products and turn into something useful to the society. And I think it takes time, and we have to be patient.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Looks like we're about out of time. But to all the developer here, there are a lot of support from the foundation. So walk around, get to know each other, and there's a very smart founder too that you can engage and talk with. That's about it. So thank you, panelists.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ben.